Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent. If you're feeling trapped, it's because you've let your mind cage you in. This is Wade Vincent here once again with another episode of the Forever Better Academy podcast. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about how much at times it feels like you're not in control of your life, but you always have control to take actions that will drive you in the direction you want to go in. For about 10 years, I was a truck driver. I drove trucks with general freight. I drove trucks delivering food. I did the typical courier work, just the usual delivery driver stuff. You know, it didn't really matter what it was. It was just that, you know, that's what I did, and that's you know how I earned my living at the time. When you're doing that kind of work, very little changes. It's usually the same kind of routine. It's the same route most times unless you switch to a different area. So you're in essence driving the same path day in, day out. You're picking up and delivering boxes that look almost identical every single day. And it becomes very monotonous and routine to a point where sometimes it starts to feel like you're trapped. Now, I know this was the case for me at the time. I felt this immense desire to get out. Just started to feel very caged and very restricted in life, where I was like many people who just loathe their job. I hated it. I absolutely hated the work of the same monotonous routine. I didn't mind, I have no problem doing the hard yards and doing the work and whatever it takes to feed my family. I've never shied away from physical work. Doesn't bother me. I'm happy to do the hard yards. But none of it was mentally satisfying or stimulating. It's very much a job where I didn't have to rely on my mind at all. I just generally had to rely on my body and physical strength and just being active. And as I said, I had this immense desire just to get the hell out. I couldn't stand it. And what would happen was, and was typical of many of the guys that I worked with too, you would start to see the same guys in different companies doing the rounds. And I started to fall into that habit too, where I'd work in one place and then I'd get so fed up and sick of it that I'd jump ship and go to another transport company and see all the other guys that I'd been working with in previous companies. And it became very incestuous, where everybody sort of could get each other jobs because we all sort of were in that circle. It was very, very confined. And you start to feel like, they say a change is as good as a holiday, but it didn't feel like the case in this regard. You'd shift jobs and then you'd feel good about it. And then 6 months in, you'd start to have those same feelings and those same patterns and frustrations, because what realized felt like I was taking action to move forward and get myself out of that situation. But what was really happening was I was just changing the landscape. I was still doing the same thing. So after 6 months, and it starts to, the novelty and the newness of it starts to wear off, you start to realize, okay, well, I haven't actually changed anything. I've just moved sideways. I haven't gone forward. I haven't progressed. I'm just doing the same thing in different jobs, multiple different companies doing the same thing. So I had this just this burning desire to get out. It felt almost like walls coming in, closing in on me. Have you ever seen one of those old school spy shows like Get Smart, where it's trapped in some sort of room and this walls are closing in, and there's spikes, and they get more and more overwhelmed with, how do I get out of this room, and just everything feels like it's caving in on you, right? And then I think after a few times of moving around through different companies, I got to that sort of feeling, and that thought, or was this my life? Is this it? Like, am I just destined to do the same, menial tasks day in, day out? I know I've got to feed my family, and I know that I've got bills to pay, and is there anything more for me? Is this just my destiny? Am I confined to this type of life, and that's all it's ever going to be? And that's a really confronting experience to go through when you feel like your walls and your world are very, very tiny. And I started to when I went through that, I started to get very anxious, and I was to the point where I was having anxiety attacks, and I'd never had that in my life. And I remember going to my local doctor, and I had this, the typical male bravado thing of I'm tough, I can handle anything, right? And I think we're all capable of handling things, but we don't have to pretend that we don't need support or assistance, and that we've got it all under control, because the universe is chaos. It's not so easy to control. And I was getting so anxious, and I went to the doctor, and it almost unwillingly, I didn't realize at the time that it was actually benefiting me more than I had anticipated, because when I went to the doctor, I was looking for a way to get out. And I had asked my employer at the time. I had I think about a month's worth of annual leave up my sleeve, and I'd asked to take time off because I just was again getting overwhelmed. I didn't want to keep shifting companies, because I was starting to see that wasn't changing anything. And when I asked for that annual leave, my bosses basically told me, no, you can't have it, it's too busy, we need the staff, you don't have, even though you've got that time owing to you, there were still these gatekeepers that dictated whether or not I could, take the leave that was entitled to me. And so my initial thought was, go to a doctor and get some sort of certificate that I'm under so much stress, and that would be my way to get leave, because I knew that if I did that, the company can't really argue with a medical professional's advice, because they can get in a lot of trouble if something goes wrong, or I have a meltdown or commit suicide or whatever it may be. And that's how I felt. Like I was there, and it started as an intention to just get that certificate. And when I went to the doctor and started telling him this, I just burst into tears, and I was just distraught. And it was almost like everything I'd been holding down and pressing down deep inside, like almost as those walls were coming in, I was using my own walls as well, pressing it all down in the pit of my stomach, and it just all erupted, and I burst into tears, and realized that this wasn't a way to get out of work. I genuinely had a problem that I'd been avoiding and needed some help to deal with it. And to the point where when I had that breakdown, the doctor gave me a referral. He said, why don't you go and talk to a psychologist and explain to them your situation, and they will help give you the tools that you need to cope and move forward. And I'm so thankful that I did. A valuable experience, and some of those techniques and things that I was taught, I still use today. They're very, very powerful. Simple little things, as one maybe that you guys could use if it's of value to you, is one, wherever I'm feeling sort of anxious, or there's a sort of cloud over me that's too much to bear, I breathe in deep and imagine that my breath is that anxiousness I can't handle, and either you could blow into a balloon, or if you don't have a balloon available, sometimes I just breathe into my fist, and then I imagine that all of that negative energy is being expelled through my breath into my fist, and then I let it go. And it's a super simple but very powerful thing that's helped me, and just it's worth me mentioning to you because it may be beneficial to you as a technique. And at that point, after going through those feelings and starting to get the support and help that I needed, I had this realization that my actions have led me where I am, and that the world isn't against me. This doesn't have to be my life. This is where I'm at currently, for better or worse, because of the choices and decisions that I had made, and allowed myself to become position where I was. And that may seem confronting or overwhelming, or you may be listening to that and thinking, but that's not me. I didn't get myself here. I don't want to be in this position, and why would I put myself in such a frustrating or horrible position that I hate every day? And the thing to remember in this moment is, it's taking ownership of those actions. When you're in a position and you say that you brought yourself there, it's not detrimental. It actually empowers you, and it gives you the ability to regain control of your actions and move you out of that situation. And once I realized that, everything shifted. Everything changed. Doors opened, because I started to remove the mental cage that I'd placed upon myself, and start to believe, not just understand, but actually believe in my own ability to take control of my actions and lead myself out of that situation and into a situation that's far better for my mental health and well-being, and also for my family. Once I'd taken that ownership, and then I knew that I could do something about it, it was the game changer. From there, I was able to, internalize that, believe in it, and take action upon it. So I started to consider, if I'm in this job, and this is another thing on a side note that's relevant to this. I remember when I would look for jobs, the frustration in looking for available jobs and knowing that I didn't have the required skill set to land a job that I was after, and that was a signal from the universe, and just something I didn't pick up on at first. Like, it's a very frustrating thing when you're searching for work, and my only skill set was a truck license. It's super limiting when I'd go and look at a job, and I'd read the description and what was involved and what it took to to fulfill the position, and I'd basically disqualify myself from all these jobs because I was so limited in my skill set, because I hadn't spent enough time developing myself, working on my strengths, experimenting and trying things, and learning what was of interest to me, and what was of value that I could add to the world and bring to society. What were my unique skill sets that would make an impact on others, and bring value, as I said. It just brought that memory back. It's really intense when you can only apply for a handful of jobs driving, and you are a slave to your circumstance, because, as I said, I hadn't done anything to improve my skill sets or increase my value. And as I said, when you realize that, it's not a hindrance, it's empowering, because then the control went from external of other people putting these, constraints on me, to it became internal, and I was able to push those walls out again, because I knew I could put more inside of me. I could take on any different skills I wanted to, and then I was able to reverse engineer it. So the first skill set, when I was, I've spoke about this in previous episodes. I was listening to podcasts. I started reading books. I was just filling my head with information, going through the motions of, as I said, that experimentation, learning. What do I like? What do I need to know? What leads to this rabbit hole, down this rabbit hole? Where is this taking me? How do I just needed to open my eyes and start looking. And then the more paths that I started locating and traveling upon, I was able to find the path that was of the most interest to me, and I was good at, and I can combine those things and move a lot quicker. At first it takes a little bit to get that momentum going, but once it starts, it starts to snowball, and that momentum leads to more momentum. It's faster, it picks up. And there was something about, I believe it was from the back of, I read Grant Cardone's book Sell or Be Sold, and the basic premise of that really was, selling is always occurring. You're either selling someone on your opinions or your ideas or your beliefs or what you're trying to get, or they're selling you on theirs. There's always the to and fro, the push and pull, give and take, and until you reach a decision. Now, and that really hit me. That was such a profound realization. It's not about like I know it's easy because of that real intense old school sales to take that as push forward and you get your way or someone else gets theirs. That's not the case. That's misunderstanding it. What it really is learning about that dynamic, that there's always a flux in play, and it's either going to your advantage or against you, right? So that's kind of how I interpret it, and it's served me better than thinking about it as a way of getting my own way against others, which is not how I believe you should take it on board. So when I realized that was like, okay, sales is something I need to learn. I need to learn this skill set because it's a life skill, not just a skill of trying to sell a product or a service as your employment, but really understanding how to interact with people, how to negotiate, how to express yourself to others in a way that you're able to get the things that you're seeking in your life. So I started to look at it like, okay, well, this is my plan of attack. What are the skill sets I need to improve on? So I decided, I need to learn sales, and I need to learn how to better communicate. I need to learn how to negotiate with others. I need to learn how to build rapport and strengthen relationships. All of these different skills that were or are considered soft skills, but they can apply to many different sort of jobs and applications and industries in the approach, right? So that was, I think, a key factor for me, was realizing that I could take control of my efforts, and I could drive myself forward by learning skill sets that were relevant across multiple sort of applications. So I took that on, and at the time I was working as a truck driver still at this point, and I was a qualified chef. I was working in food service, so I had the combination of understanding the kitchens because I was a chef. I understood the logistics side, the warehouse, the supply chain of how to get, the food from basically from factory through to the restaurant and onto the plate. And I knew that it would be of benefit to me to learn sales, and I could leverage off those two existing skills that I had to position myself as a far better equipped salesman within that company. So I took action, and I spoke to the director of sales at the company, and told them this is what I'm trying to achieve, and I believe that I'm going to be more beneficial because I've been on both sides of the equation as a chef and as the truck driver delivering the goods. And so I wanted to make the most of what I had available to me. And they were open to the idea. And then I basically hit a brick wall where because I was driving trucks and you're doing so much overtime, and it was the only way for us to get enough money as a single income family, for me to go and move forward and advance in sales, I would have to take a $20,000 a year pay cut to go on entry level salary. And it was devastating at the time, because I knew I needed to move forward, but I knew that I couldn't take such a cut or a sacrifice to our family, because in doing that, it would put us even further behind. And it's very hard to learn new things and progress when you're under immense pressure and you're not even sure if you can keep the roof over your head because you can't afford rent. So I didn't let it deter me. I was convinced and determined that I was going to learn these new skill sets, and I knew that I had to, but it just, I realized this wasn't the avenue for me. This wasn't the way that I was going to learn. And shortly thereafter, it turned out the director of sales ended up getting let go, or he left. I'm not sure of the finer details, but basically that person left, and then the opportunity disappeared. And I had it set in my mind. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how to move myself forward in leveraging those existing skills, and I was determined to learn this new skill set that would progress me and move me forward and allow me to remove that caged feeling, that my mind was caging me in, like I was allowing it to happen. And now I'd finally started to break through those bars in my mind that were holding me in place. So I pulled the pin. I quit the job. And I know it may seem counterintuitive, because I've just said why, I couldn't take this opportunity with a 20 grand pay cut, and now I've quit my employment. I have no money coming in. But I knew that I had to take that leap of faith, because I wasn't going to progress or move forward in that job, in that position where the role wasn't available for me to make progress. So I had to remove myself from that environment and then place myself in another environment where I could continue to level up. And it put pressure on me once I'd quit. Your back's against the wall. This is Cortez. We burned the boats on the shore of the New World. We don't have another choice. So it made me take action and secure a job in sales, leveraging my skill sets. It didn't end up off the back of my chefing ability, but it did end up leveraging my ability in transport and logistics. And then that pushed me into a new role. And admittedly, this was a pay cut in this role as well. And it was daunting, because I was on that borderline. Like, I was actually going further into debt. I've spoke about this too each week. Even getting paid, I was losing money. Like, we were overextended. And just in a few short years from taking that leap, I was able to progress and advance myself and my skill sets to a point where I became a more valuable member of society, and in turn my remuneration reflects that. So I removed that mental cage that I'd placed upon myself, and took ownership of my situation, took ownership of what I could control, and what I could control was my ability to put effort in to learn the new skill sets that would make me more valuable to others and society. And then from there, I was able to get, the reward and return from doing so, where I've spoke about in the past. At that point, I've tripled my income from that low point where I was at the time. And it's something that I never would have imagined possible. There was literally that moment where I was like, is this my life? Is this all there is for me? And it feels so real when you let it be real, when you allow that thought or that cage of your mind to hold you in place. It's as real as it gets. You may as well have put titanium bars around me, because I was caging myself in, it's insane when I think back about how much I was limiting myself, and how much sooner I could have started my journey. But I guess, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens at the time it's intended to happen. I'm here now talking to you guys, and I've benefited from the lessons that have been shared with me, and I in turn want to share these things with you so that hopefully it brings benefit to your life. Now, the most wonderful outcome of all of it, beyond learning new skills and feeling inspired or excited about what I'm learning, and being more productive, and all those wonderful things that come from the efforts that I've put in since then. The real joy, or the greatest outcome that came from that, I believe, was regaining control of my mind, putting myself back in charge of my thoughts and my beliefs, and what I'm capable of and what I achieved. And one of my favorite quotes from all time that I used to have back in the day, I used to have dreadlocks, and was in music and whatnot, and I used to have this Bob Marley t-shirt, and it used to say emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And I think that's so beautifully summed up, and that's exactly what it is. No matter what you feel is putting those pressures on you from the outside, you're in control. Don't let yourself become a slave to your own mind. You have more power than you will ever believe possible. Everyone else you think is trying to cage you in, it's not the case. Don't cage yourself in, okay? Remember, who could you become? All right, this is Wade Vincent, Forever Better Academy, sending love and light to each and every one of you, and I look forward to seeing you grow and succeed and become the best version of yourself you can become. All right, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and let's talk again soon. See you later, guys.